going to talk about something that's making waves in the news, right?
Yep.
So
in the news recently.
DeepSeek is what it's called.
Yep.
So we're talking more AI, right?
Yep. All the buzzwords: AI, automation, DeepSeek, all that stuff. Yep. But we'll get into a little bit what happened, what its implications are potentially. I'll give you some of my personal opinions on it too, and what it could mean for the industry. So
yeah, and drop your comments and questions. We'd love to hear them.
So what is DeepSeek? So before we even get into that, I want to just preface this with basically saying AI models, like there's the different ones, like there's the OpenAI. I think the one on Twitter is like Grok. There is Copilot for Microsoft. There's all these different AI models out there that various companies are working to create and train.
And Meta has one too.
Yeah, there's like Claude's one of them or something, like, I don't know.
Yeah, Claude is the I forgot the name of it. The company is like Anthro something.
Yeah. So there's all these companies right now racing to create these AI models, they call them, I guess, where basically you ask it a question and it will go through all the data you've trained it with to ideally give you an accurate answer really quickly. So, it can be used in various things. My thought is like you could have a virtual house doctor, right, who could diagnose the disease really quickly, or like imagine like an AI lawyer who can go through all of the historical case law instantly and get any relevant stuff for you right away, right? So it could have some kind of interesting ramifications on how we do things. But in order to do this AI training, it typically requires very large warehouses. We're talking warehouses stacked with computer hardware that are millions, maybe even billions of dollars that are running basically mathematical equations. And so that's like what OpenAI and some of these other big, large things have, these giant data centers. They usually use NVIDIA chips, like the NVIDIA GPUs is a big one that people may hear about. And the reason it is just the way it's currently programmed. They're just feeding it so much data, and it's trying to just calculate it all and learn as much as it can. So it just requires a ton of horsepower. Think about back in the day, like in the 80s and 70s, computers typically were only available in like universities or maybe a large job or in the workplace. And it wasn't until like the early 80s where you could get a personal computer at home, and even then it was very limited and still quite expensive, like the barrier to entry. I imagine like a $5,000 computer in your house in the 80s, that's quite an expense, you know? So like that's kind of where AI is at now, is like if you wanted to run AI in your home, like you need to have some beefy hardware. And that's actually kind of where DeepSeek is now kind of taking that idea of, do you need a giant data center to run AI? Or can you actually run it on your computer that's a couple $1,000s, or even your Android device, like a limited version of it, right? So what happened is that DeepSeek is just one of these giant AI models. It's a system that they've been feeding and training. What had happened with is that they actually released the code to the wild. They call it open source. So the idea with OpenAI and these Microsoft ones is the underlying, like how it works, they're not releasing that because that's their proprietary code. It's how they're kind of having their advantage over others. With DeepSeek, they just released it to the wild. Like, hey, you like this AI bot? Use it. Here's how you use it. And you can even install it on your computer and all of that. So the issue with this is it created kind of a free fall in the markets. We saw right as soon as DeepSeek was released, like I think NVIDIA stock dropped. Some of these other AI stocks had dropped a ton. Again, this is just my personal opinion, but I always felt that stuff was slightly overvalued already anyway. But by having it be released to the wild, people are like, well, it's not these giant players. Other people may be able to do this in their own backyard or on their own hardware and things like that too, because it was released.
So it kind of opened the market up a little bit.
Kind of, yeah. It'd be like almost like if, I don't know, like Henry Ford back in the days, the only one that knew how to make vehicles, and all of a sudden someone released the bluept of how to make your own vehicle out. Like,
so now
I don't have this. I have a hold on this. Other people can use it and maybe improve it. Who knows what? So, and how it works is it uses larger AI models. They call it distilled, and this is where they kind of got into some trouble, and it's still kind of in the news now, where OpenAI basically said the reason that they were able to do so good is they basically already did all the work we did, and they just copied our work. So OpenAI has this giant warehouse pumping millions of algorithms, millions of data into their OpenAI system. What DeepSeek essentially did was just like, give me all that information you've already done. Okay, I've already learned all that. And then you already have a huge leap from that. And that's what some OpenAI people were saying. They noticed that because the big thing is they're saying OpenAI has this, millions and billions of dollars or whatever. They claim that DeepSeek was only trained with $10 million or whatever in 2 weeks or something. So they claimed it was, but again, it's using other people's work to do it. So it's not true in that they completely did it from scratch. So again, implications to the AI industry in general is just lower barrier to AI adoption. Small companies, researchers, and hobbyists can now benefit. I have my own personal computer at home. super beefy computer. It's a 4090 graphics card, but you can actually run a model of this DeepSeek on that locally. And what that means is it's running on my computer. I'm not sending my question out to the internet, and the internet is giving my answer back.
Oh, it's your own AI
Your
bot.
own AI bot on your computer. That's the implication
Oh,
of this. Is now when you're doing AI, you go to the website or whatever, you ask it a question, and it uses the data center, and then it just feeds you the answer from the data center.
Yeah.
This will run locally on your computer without having to reach out anywhere. So your data is actually more protected and not being, your questions and things like that too.
I like that.
And so that's where, when I say running locally, that's what I mean is it's running on your computer. You're not relying on a cloud or
It's your
supercomputer.
own.
It's your own AI bot. And there's some other little things it did, like an example with math. DeepSeek will only go to 8 decimal places instead of 32. So that's actually a 75% reduction in CPU calculations, and most people 8 decimal places is pretty accurate. I don't need a bit more fancy than that. So there's certain tweaks like that it does that allows it to be able to run on other devices.
So it's more efficient.
It's more efficient in a sense. And they have all these different various models that are free available, right? So you can have like the high end tier where you almost need his data center to run. I went down to like the mid tier where I could run that locally on my computer, my 4090 at home on my computer. You can even go down to a really weak light version and even run it on like a smartphone. And it may not be able to give you as good answers. And some of those even do need to augment and maybe not to run pure locally.
Yeah.
If they're really light.
Well, that makes sense because my little AI bot on here, I don't think it actually, I think it does just go out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and
interesting.
So again, some of the downsides and limitations, they were saying that these smaller models struggle, like the light versions, right? It's not nowhere near as good as even the basic ChatGPT was a year ago. So it still struggles, but it's still something better than nothing, right? It risks what they call hallucinations, where it thinks it's correct, but it's completely incorrect. So it'll give you code or a thing that's completely just off the wall, and it thinks it's correct, but it's clearly not. So you still want to check it. Like with any AI, don't just trust the answers, right?
No, that happens all the time with AI.
Yeah, and again, they got in trouble because it says it's dependency on larger models. The way it works, it uses other larger models, so it has bias from training. Like any AI has some bias. So the example with like the Chinese one, because this came from China as well, so it has some implicit bias. Where if I remember, certain researchers were asking it like, is Taiwan part of China? And it was saying yes, and it was like other certain things that are clearly biased. It had that in there, but the idea I'm thinking is that because the models are open, people can look at the various things that it's learning on and maybe even reverse that or see where that bias is and maybe even correct it, make a true purely open source model without any biases, or that it's community funded, with it. So again, there's the problem with it again is it's threatening kind of the chip dominance and the existing big players, right? This was kind of released to the wild. They're just like, here you go, do what you want with it. And again, it's still ongoing. I can't speak specifically, but like OpenAI was saying, hey, they were using us, and so that's why it's just like they're using our stuff and trying to do that. So so I'm just going through another article here similar to it. So so it came from China. It was an open source AI model. And it was outpacing some of the current models because the idea is once you release it to the wild, you have all these people who can play with it, tweak it, and maybe you can get kind of a crowd-funded way of improving it faster than a siloed private company by just having everyone try to improve it for
more
everyone.
Brains, right?
Exactly,
more brains.
And so again, they say it's open source because the weights and training procedures are publicly available. So people are currently right now scrutinizing it, going through and trying to see what they can do to train it and all that kind of stuff. And again, the biggest thing is that it can go right on down to like a Mac Mini, a MacBook Pro can run it, all that kind of stuff. You don't need a giant warehouse to run your AI. You can actually run it on your actual hardware itself. So people did do some testing between the two, like, how good is this really compared to, like, say, the latest ChatGPT and things like that. So people were testing the performance testing of DeepSeek R1 to ChatGPT 4o on various reasoning and coding tasks. So for basic logic, like how many words are counting, how many R's are in the word strawberry. That was a famous one that ChatGPT actually got wrong for a while. It was basically the same, no huge difference there. And when it came to riddle comprehension, such as like logic puzzles and things like that, again, there was no real huge difference between the two as well. When it came to programming tasks, however, like some people asked it to, make a quick game or whatever, the DeepSeek struggled and did not do as good as ChatGPT when it came to creating coding for certain languages.
Interesting.
And then for the logical processing and rationing, the self-reflection tag. So the neat thing with the DeepSeek that other AIs don't do, and maybe they're going to start doing it or they have similar to, is it gives you its thought process and how it came up to the answer. So now when you ask AI a question like, I don't know, whatever, give me whatever it is, it'll kind of just spit out an answer for you. What DeepSeek does is that time when it's thinking to spit out the answer, you will actually see its thought process come across the screen, almost like an internal monologue, like, well, I have this data here, but then I have this here. Should I use it? Oh yeah, and it's kind of really creepy in a weird sense because you can see its thoughts. And the neat thing is then the idea behind it is if it gives you an incorrect answer, you can see where along the logic thought that it got it incorrect, or maybe it made an incorrect assumption or something, and then maybe it'll help you debug and get a better prompt or a better answer from it. So that was I know some of the other AIs are starting to do that too, so I don't want to say that's just DeepSeek doing that, but the idea it's showing you its thoughts or its logic to come to the answer prior to was neat. I thought that was a neat thing.
That would be neat.
Yep.
Rather than just the dots sitting there.
And then when it came to package shipping problems, reorientating in 3D space, ChatGPT still did better than DeepSeek. So again, there's certain limitations where obviously the giant powerhouses that are out there are going to still perform better just because they have the hardware, they've been training it more, all that kind of stuff. But the idea is that you have this free open AI, in a sense, not open AI, but AI program model that can do, even if it's 75% of what the big things do, but this one costs nothing and you can run on your local hardware. That is a huge disruption in the industry. I'm kind of excited to see, because right now, how I predict AI is it's going to get very more isolated for job functions. And what I mean by that is everyone's trying to create an AI. You can ask it anything and do all this. But I think at the end of the day, you're going to have AIs for specific functions that will perform those functions better. Like you'll have a lawyer AI, a medical AI, a cybersecurity AI, a programming AI, maybe,
a marketing AI.
Exactly. And it'll be focused on just that task.
Yeah.
And it'll do that task better than the others. And so that's where I think eventually we're getting to with it. And right now we're in that kind of the initial, like when search engines first came out.
Wild West right now.
Yeah, there was 30, 40 search engines when they all first came out, even more than that. And then it finally came down, like Google's just like, let's just do search really well. Screw having these ads and the lights, all that other stuff right up there. Like, let's just do search really, really good. And they did a great job at it, and they became the great with that one thing. So that's what AI is going to do. Yeah, exactly. So I see, like, if you can create a really great cybersecurity AI or an AI specifically for medical, or whatever the use case is, that's where you're going to excel. And then you can take that lane and then run with it is my thoughts anyway.
Yeah. Which is normal. That, like you said, with the search engines. Do you remember Dogpile?
Oh, yeah. It was like all of them at once. And so it kind of go through all of them if you can. Yeah.
So
Lycos, Alta Vista, all those.
Poe does that. POE.
Okay.
It's an app that just uses ChatGPT. It's a whole bunch of them. It's got a whole list of them, and it does them all at once, and it picks the best one.
Oh, that's so they already have
So it's interesting.
I haven't heard of that. That's cool.
Yeah, I have it on my laptop. I'll show you.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So that's it. I just wanted to cover the DeepSeek and AI where it's at. It was kind of a disruption thing. There's probably been news articles about it, and I just figured to just kind of talk about it. And,
let you know what's going on. We like to stay on top of stuff like that. So. Drop your questions, drop help if you need any help with your cybersecurity or Windows 11.
Or my thought is if you want to start using AI, like Copilot in your business, talk to us first so we can make sure you're doing it securely, accurately, and avoiding any sort of data leaks. So.
Absolutely. Yes. Yep. Yes, because you don't want to just let it loose on your network. So, all right. So reach out to us if you need any help, and we'll see you next time. Make it a great day.